Oh, good morning. Hey, how are you? I think I'm talking to Bill, maybe, hopefully, and maybe Perry. Ooh, chair. Maybe Perry, perhaps Peter. I'm not sure. Sons of Static is there. Peter, nice. How are you? Welcome. It is me, Scott McMahon. This is Scottie Teaches. I'm just doing some testing. I'm going to go through some stuff in Illustrator just so that this is more of an actual test. How are the audio levels? How was the sound level? How was everything that sort of preceded this face coming onto screen? And let me know if it's too much. I can make this face not different, just smaller. Uh, it's fine. So I'm just trying to figure out where all my chat sort of res resides. I might have to come up with different workspace layouts so I can have my second monitor, or maybe I need a third monitor that has my YouTube stuff on it. That would actually be a good sort of idea. Yeah. So let's just try um because Bill suggested this before, and I mean I had it when I did my Behance, but this is if I go on a tangent, this is going to be my little showcasey thing. So hopefully it comes across. And I don't think it did. Did I? I don't think it came across. Let me try it again. Hmm. I might have to switch over to a different view. Okay. So we go from this sort of, you're not just going to see me for the whole thing. You can never have too many monitors. It's true. That is correct. So where is that popping up where I can protect that? Let's move that window. Yeah, so I have access to that. Okay. So we're gonna do a little switch there, go from this view with our little bumper in this view, and is the stuff on screen, because I haven't changed my resolution of my screen, which I might have to, but is the stuff coming across sort of clear that you can sort of see what is on screen, what I'm possibly doing? Uh, a bit of stab in the ear holes, so I've got to come down a bit on the volume. Let me just see if I can adjust that. I might need to adjust it. Uh, yeah, I'll adjust that, and I don't know if I can adjust it. No, I don't think I can adjust it. I have to adjust it off. Like how loud? Like too loud? Hey, and if you're not one of my buddies that's tuning in to give me feedback, I appreciate you being here. I don't know if anybody else has shown up. I had a grand total of 5 subscribers, so I'm not sure if anybody showed up or what's going on. I'm on, so I'll probably have to redo my like what's on screen because right now I have it at like 2K version, and I should scale it down so that everything's a little more accessible for you guys. So that's good to know. Um, so I thought today I would talk about um, hello, new friends. Are there new friends on here? I can't. I see stats, chat rate 5. I don't know what that means. It's compressed and blurry. Okay, so I definitely have to, because I thought that I was broadcasting at HD. Oh, my share looks to be 320. Wow. I wonder how I can change that. I don't know if I can change it while I'm live. Oh, I can pop out the chat. Good to know. Community moderation, moderation activity, timestamps, reactions. Uh, is that my Mr. Rogers voice? Sure, I don't know. It's the one coming out of my face hole, or at least the one that makes, well, the one that makes the most noise. It's not necessarily my face hole that only makes noise, clearly. Um, okay, so that is not. I don't know. Be able to change that. Yeah, that might be in a webcam, manage, create highlight video, add stream marker. Your voice is decent. Sounds like you, not too roomy. Where is your mic located? Just below me. Should it be? Should it be closer? Should I have a more pickup on it, Bill? Because right now I can. I don't know how much input could be closer, or is that better? Is that better? Do I sound better? How's it coming across? I can't, like, I really can't see what I look like. It's really tiny on my screen, so it might be really tiny on yours. Can you go to closer the better? Like, this is way too close, right? Like, you don't want it to be this close. Is that how close you want it to be? But not in frame. Yeah. The challenge I have is that I don't want it to block sort of my keyboard view so that I kind of look like I know kind of what I'm doing. Um, is that in frame? I don't know if I'm in frame because it's so small on my screen, my little tiny view. I guess I could always just go back to this and, stab you guys in the ear again. So that's how high. So there it comes into view. So put there, maybe there. Ouch. Okay, so I got to drop that volume. So sorry, it's going to do it again. I'm going to go back to the sort of the long view. So is it? That's decent. Okay, sorry. Here we go again. I'm going to do that again, and I'm gonna definitely drop the volume on that piece. So we're back to this. So we might as well do a quick lesson because it's going to sit. I mean, I could always delete it from my channel, but I mean, I won't because I'm super lazy. Um, so chat rate. I don't know what that means. What does chat rate mean? Oh, that's an interesting stat they give you is the average view duration. So that would help if people just showed up for like 5 seconds. It's going to bring my average down. But if there's a couple of people I know hanging out for a long time, it's going to bring my average way up. Yeah. Well, the cam is it's a 4K cam from Insta360. I think it's Insta360. I think that's the company. But it's the webcam. It's really nice. It's if I wanted to, it'll. Yeah. Sorry, Peter, if you are wearing headphones. So definitely going to take some volume off of that, like just a lot of volume off of that. Um, yeah, sorry guys. I had no idea that it was going to be come across that loud. Okay, so we might as well do a couple of minutes of lesson here, and just in case people forgot how awesome this feature is, there is a feature in Illustrator called Asset Export. And this is a logo and tagline that I'm working on, and worked on for a buddy that's in Vancouver who does some D&D podcasting type stuff. And this is a sub-brand called Forge of Legends. And as we can see, or maybe not see from the... So let me... You know what? Let me change. I'm going to change right now while I have feedback. Yeah, this is why we test. Yep. Okay, so I'm going to change settings, user interface. Oh, I have to quit? I think I have to quit next time okay, so let's try that. Okay, save, sure. Okay, so that's super big, but is that better? Is that a better sort of presentation of at least what's on screen? Or is it too big now? Let's get this stuff out of the way. Better. Better somewhat. Man, those are ringing endorsements. Better? Better somewhat. Almost too big now. Well, okay. So let's go to settings, user interface, and let's go to the one in between. Say okay, okay. There. Is that better? The cool desktop image is just from Apple. I think it's like in the Utah deserts, tolerable. And you guys are just full of the feels. Nice balance. Okay, so let's see what we got here. So if that's that, then I can work on, so that one. So I'm gonna have to, that's my job, man. Yeah. Sorry, I should introduce Peter, Bill, Peter. Peter I've known for about 25 years. Bill I've known for his whole life. Everybody's a designer here. Talk amongst yourselves. Okay, so let's have a look, see what we've got. So, asset export. I'm going to bring this window over. I'm not starting from the ground up on this file. But you know what? I'm going to do a save as. We'll do this test. And definitely want to, because the cable was in the way of me typing. Test and save. And now this one I can. Just going to delete all of this and we'll start fresh. So the asset export is available to us under Window to Asset Export. And we are presented, it usually comes up with artboards. Currently I have one artboard. I could have multiple artboards in Illustrator. Yeah, of course, if you get a call from your boss, you should go. So I just want to have a screen so I can see, not that my numbers are going to change. I'm going to definitely need to set up a new sort of workshop for this. Okay. So our asset export is our ability to take whole things in Illustrator or part things and to save them out in various formats sort of quickly. So for instance, if we look at all the different layers of this particular file, I have different versions of this primary logo and different versions of the tag. So even in this one situation with the green and the purple, so listed here is logo green and purple. If I turn that, that is on that layer. I also have a safe space, which you can't see, but it is a highly recommended thing on its own layer. It is a no fill, no stroke box that is used to help define, especially when we're making things like JPEGs and PNGs, etc., that they have the safe space built into them, that the asset isn't just right to the edge of the the logo or whatever you need to export. And then I have the positive tagline on the side, but we also have a reverse, which you can't see because it's not on a dark. And that's why I have this, so that I can see what it does look like. And I do have it locked, but it's not going to be part of any of our exports because you want the background you're putting it on to be the actual background. Excuse me. Sorry about that. Your boss is not a jerk, Peter. I know, because I've known your boss for 25 years too. So, okay, the way that asset export works in Illustrator is, I'm going to turn that tag back on. You can do it a number of ways. You can select what you want, and then I believe under we go to the submenu. Let's start with just going to the submenu. That is not where you do it. I'm going to do it the only way I know how to do it, which is to take your document pieces that you have selected and to drag them into this window area. And it says it's going to be asset number 11. So when I let go, we're going to see that, oh, all of a sudden, everything sort of separates. All the pieces that are on their own are now separate. Anything that is grouped will be its own piece. And that's sort of by default because that's what it's designed to do. Asset export is that it wants to take all of the assets that you have, and if you drop them in there, it's going to put them all out separately as groups to whatever format you want. Now, I don't want to do that, and I don't want to group this. So how can I do an asset export that is complete but doesn't sort of destructively create a group where I've got multiple layers that I don't want to disrupt? By are great on the, especially on the Mac. Actually, you know what I should do? I should add, I don't know where my keyboard setting. Oh man. I'll do that for the next time. I forgot that I have my keyboard setting. So the great Mac key, the option key, is always think of the option key as an option. What do I want to do? Is there an option? Try the option key, adding the option key. So by pressing the option key and dragging, I now change it from multiple assets to one asset. And it gives it a name of asset 11, which I'm going to just highlight and change. And we're just going to call it logo green purple GP. And we're going to call it positive. And we'll do tag first. And then we'll give it that it's a positive version of the logo. And just for quickness, I'm only going to do another version, which is the reverse. So again, selecting all the parts that I want to keep as the export, pressing option, dragging it down. And you'll see there's a bit of a tint behind it just so it can show us some white. And I'm going to just copy and paste. And instead of positive, we're going to call it reverse. Now, the challenge is, I'm going to make this, can I make this bigger? Format settings. No, I can't make it bigger. I would love to make this view bigger. And you can see that right now, it looks like it has changed. Where do you choose the destination folder for the X? I'm going to show you that in a second, Peter. There's a couple ways that we can export this. But the first thing I want to point out is that the first one, the positive version, seems to be missing the tagline. And that is because, unfortunately, only even though you've created this asset that's going to be exported, only layers and information that is visible will be exported. So if I click back on the layer, we see that they're separated. Even though right now, visually, if I zoom in, you get that weird sort of thing where the white is over top of another color. From Illustrator standpoint, it doesn't understand that, like on screen if I tried to print that or whatever. But from an asset allocation or asset export, it understands all the different parts that have been put together. So these two are now available to be exported. It doesn't mean that they are exported yet. This is just a collection of things that I might want to export. And just while we have this up, I want to show this one thing that I could just do the logo if I want it. It doesn't have its own special save space, so we're going to be cheating it a bit. So I'm going to just drag the Forge of the Legends down to its own thing, and we're just going to do it as the logo, green and purple. So now we have three things based on one really piece of artwork. And you'll notice that when I select them, the border turns blue. That just tells you that you've highlighted them because you don't have to export everything that's in this sort of export library in this area down here, and we could fill this up. So from an export standpoint, there are a number of ways in which we can export. We are just doing asset exports. So we are doing just the parts that are in here. We want to be able to, down in what are we exporting? What are our options for exporting? Well, we have various formats. So let's go sort of backwards from format to suffix to scale. We're going to talk about this little menu at the top shortly, but let's start with format. So from a format standpoint, we have PNG, PNG 8, JPEG 100, JPEG 80, JPEG 50, JPEG 20, and all, well, especially the JPEGs. The JPEGs are just the resolution quality, like the compression quality. So if you want the best JPEG version, you want JPEG 100. But if you can get away with, you wanted the file to be a little bit smaller and it can be compressed a little bit, then you can go 80 or 50 or 20. You can also export SVGs, scalable vector graphics, which are used a lot of times now for websites to keep the vector sort of cleanliness on a website. PDF you can export. We have a bunch that are grayed out. OBJ, which is a 3D. And I don't know why it's not allowing that. USDA, I'm not sure what that is. It sounds like it has to do with meat. USDZ or Z. The GLTF, I'm not sure what those three are at all. They're relatively new to me. WebP, which is another web sort of photo format thing that's happening for the internet. AI, which I believe would just be Illustrator, which is, I think, a new one, and EPS, which is encapsulated PostScript. And you have a suffix, so you can add. Nice one. The suffix that you can add, this becomes important, especially when you have multiple of maybe the same thing, because maybe you have a scale that's the same, because you can export PNG and JPEG and SVG all at the same time. And that's what makes asset export so amazing. that if I was doing a logo collection, like working on a branding and I needed to create all of these assets, I don't need to do multiple saves on an ongoing basis. So the suffix, and it could also be that you don't want to, the suffix will add, Adobe Illustrator is going to add a suffix automatically, but you can override that. You can also have no suffix if you want. From a scale standpoint, you have a number of options. You have 1 times, and it is at the size you're working at it. So if your document, whether you're working in inches or metric or points and picas, which is what you should be working in, but we'll get into that in another live stream down the road. The 1 time is just at its current size, sort of equating it to 72 pixels per inch. 2 times, 3 times, 4 times, you can change that. You can put whatever times you want in there. And then there was also 1.5 times, half, 0.75, but you could put your own. If you needed it at 0.4, you could override it just to highlight it. And I'm going to go 0.4. You can add scale. So as you can have multiple assets and you can have multiple scales. And it's funny that they talk about scale, but it's scale and format simultaneously. So I'm going to add, and I'm going to do the exact same size. So 0.4, but this one we're going to do as a JPEG. And why did all that stuff highlight? Oh, because nothing, that's why. Because nothing is highlighted up here yet. So we're going to do this one as a JPEG. And we're going to do one as an SVG. And we're going to do one as an EPS. Now, all of a sudden, for the SVG and EPS, we don't have access to scale and we don't have access to a suffix. And that is because they are both vector, they only need to be the size they are. They can be scaled and not lose resolution. It's only in the pixelated or the raster versions like PNG, JPEG. We are going to run into some challenges when we do this, but that's why we're going to do this. So one of the advantages also to asset export is if this were a collection I needed all the time, if I needed to do a logo or an export at 0.4 times for both PNG and JPEG 100 plus an SVG plus an EPS, I can use this to actually save as a preset. And if we notice in our list, we have an iOS and Android, which works out here, iOS and Android. And we're going to click those in a sec. But I'm just going to create a new, and we're going to call it, or we'll actually just go Scottie Teaches 01. And we're going to say, okay. And what that allows me to do is I now have access in the future to that collection of asset sort of parameters. Because for your branding needs or whatever, you might have like 25 different versions. And you don't want to keep redoing it every time you want to do it. You'll save it as a preset and pull that up. And you can even share export presets and import presets. So if you know somebody that's got a collection, great. Ask them, and maybe you can share it, or you need to share it with a client or whatever. So now that I have that saved, now I can click on iOS and let's see what happens. iOS, and this is just sort of what's needed if you were doing an asset for an iOS entity, if you were doing something for an app. These are the sizes that Apple wants you to have. And if you're doing something for Android, these are the sizes and formats. And also notice that it's doing the allocation of the suffix specifically. So again, those are all set, but if I wanted to go back to the one that I made, just go back to ST01, and here I am. So now, once I have that, then I can decide, first of all, what pieces are going to be exported. And now to go to your point, Peter, of where are they exported? At the bottom, we have two sort of export options. The first one is the word export. The second one is kind of hidden. It's this little thing that says launch the export for screens dialog, which is connected but different. And we're going to talk about that one in a sec. So if I just click on export, then it's going to ask me, it's going to, like, where do I want to save this? So I'm going to put it on my desktop just so I can find it. I'm going to create a new folder called ST testing. And we're going to create. And then I'm going to choose. And that was it. As soon as you choose it, it did it. And that's how quickly it happened. It's done. So I'm going to go to my desktop. And there is my folder. And this is going to be tiny and small again. So I'm going to have to maybe change this setting as well, which might, if I change the screen resolution here, it's also going to change. Yeah. So Peter, from the standpoint of what it does and why the suffixes are so important is that it's going to put it into folders separating all of this stuff. So we have, so the 4 times, and this is why it's important to have the suffix and stuff, because the 4 times, the 0.4 all ends up in the same folder. It doesn't separate it into PNG and JPEG 80 and JPEG 100. It just puts it all in the same. So, using the tags or whatever to help separate stuff becomes an important issue. So this is the challenge that we now have, and it's also key to understand that if I were to preview, I'm just going to preview it here, smaller. We see that it is transparent. Let's do the reverse one, where we get to see it's a small version of the logo. We have the tag that's reversed, and we can see through to the background because it's a PNG. The JPEG is going to be all white all the time for the background. So that's just a format issue in terms of like the actual format and what it's capable of. But JPEG does not do transparency. So I wouldn't even export I wouldn't even do, like, I would just delete these files with the reverse. So, but there's our assets. So let's just let's do all of those. So there's all 6 of those assets, and really only 3 of them are usable in this aspect. But if I had every resolution, every change in size would be its own folder. All the EPS stuff is not viewable on a preview, but the SVG is. Now the SVG it's seeming to come across as it's on white, but it's not. It's all transparent stuff. We're going to go back to Illustrator. So we're going to talk about the other aspects of scale. Well, I mean, why would I want to do this? One, I needed to create a collection of versions of, let's say, for instance, I worked for a university and I had, I don't know, a business school in that university, and that business school had a logo, and I needed variations of that logo, and I don't necessarily want to resave. I have the base Illustrator file. I don't want to have to resize and I can just do all of that in one shot. Thanks, Peter, for hanging out. I appreciate it. We'll see you later. And thanks for your feedback. I will get rid of the stabby volume on the music. And while I'm here, I just want to see if this one does work. And although this might be stabby too. Yeah, that's was that stabby on the music? That little oh there oh didn't go till now. Not bad. Okay, so I'll check that volume against the other volume. Okay. So why would I yeah, you could pass it off if you were doing assets for a website and you needed so you designed the website, but now you need all the individual parts as PNGs or whatever. You don't want to necessarily save them out. Uh yeah, sort of, but funnier or funny. Not that I'm slamming this hour's 22 minutes, but yeah, I kind of am. So let's talk about other versions of resolution and what we can do with them. Because right now, we can do it sort of this out of the box one times, two times, etc. But you could also set a resolution. See you later, Peter. You could also set a resolution. So let's say that I want it PNG to be a specific width, a specific height, or a specific resolution. And that one gets weird because it's currently at the size that it is. So the width, so I'm going to do it with just the Forge of Legends logo. And I'm going to do the PNG with a width. And we can set this to whatever we want. If I want it to be 9,000 pixels wide, and I want the JPEG 100 to be a height of, let's do 3,000 pixels high. I don't want that. I don't want that. And again, if this was something, did that change? If this was something I was going to use a lot, I would set it as a preset. We'll call it Bill 01. And we're going to say, okay. So now I've created another collection. I'm only going to export the logo, and I'm going to click export. It's going to ask me where I want it to go. I'm going to go back to testing, and we're going to call it O2, choose. And it was so quick that we didn't even see it. It's just going to say that it was successful. Teaching. Well, if you think that there's a different way or a better way that I can present information, because right now I'm just sort of kind of winging it. If you think that there's something I need to do or less or more or whatever, Bill, I'm all ears. Mostly because I don't have any hair. So let's just go and have a look-see, and let's see what our so if we check the information on this, it's 9,000 pixels wide. And if we check the information on this one, it is 3,000 pixels high. So it did exactly what it said it was going to do. I will prep a PowerPoint. You're going to give me PowerPoint notes on my teaching? Okie dokie. No, that's fine. If there's something that you think I need to do, let me know. Man. Um, is there one? Oh, yeah, I wanted to talk about the next level, which is this little icon right here. So it's one thing that what I'm exporting here are all sort of assets. They're all parts. If all of a sudden, I'm going to get another file up. This is for my brother, your cousin banner. Is that the one I want? Base material? Nope, not that one. That's client, and it's not good. Don't say it. I'm going to go get something I'm working on for my brother's partner. Yeah, okay. Ignore, ignore, ignore. Okay. So again, Bill, from a standpoint of so here I've got all kinds of parts in the pasteboard. The advantage to asset export is that all of a sudden, if somebody wanted just this or just that, I have access to those specific assets or a logo or a collection of logos. Or let's just do that logo and those bottles. Or that logo. That's the beauty of the asset part of the asset export. But I might want to save this out, like from a presentation standpoint. I don't necessarily want to do a save as or make a PDF or whatever. I might just want, for presentation purposes that I might put into a PowerPoint, I might want just a PNG of the banner. So I can go and click export for screens, and then all of a sudden I get either the assets again, but I can also just do artboards. And I don't have to worry about anything that's on the pasteboard. And I have the same sort of aspects available to me. That I can do it as at once. Now this is a big file, so I'm going to do it at like half the size, the PNG. Now the difference here is that you get to you don't need to go into export to say where you want it to go. You just click on your folder, and we're going to go into hockey, and we're going to do Bill folder test. And I'm going to choose. Now it didn't do anything. I also get to say that I want to open the location after, which I don't in this situation. Create subfolders. I can, or I can have it just not create subfolders, because if this had lots of artboards, then I can do all of the artboards at once. Or again, I could have, if I had multiple artboards, I can choose which artboards I want and which artboards I don't want. I can rename. Right now it's going to come up with the name based on the artboard, I think, and then you can override it if you want. And again, you can change the scale. Here, the nice thing is you get to add a prefix. You can add, if you wanted to add something that comes up for all of these artboards ahead of time. And again, it's not so much about whether or not you could do this individually. It's about whether or not it's making your life easier when it comes to stuff like exporting. So if I go to click export, it's going to do the same thing. It says that it was successful. It's going to bring me back to asset allocation. And let's go back to, where was I? Oh, yeah. Did I do it in here again? No, I didn't. I did it in this folder. Oh yeah, it was build test folder there. And there we go. And there's my, and I don't have to worry about, okay. Well then that's it. I will, because I don't think you want the Zoom call to be part of this thing. So I think that's good for now. There's a bunch of things I have to work on. And according to Bill, most of them are to do with me. And a couple of them are technical things with the computer and stuff. So yeah, I've got to figure out, I should make a list. Do I have paper? Paper. And we'll do a list. So sound, stabby, screen, resolution, both of AI or software and the monitor. And then teaching notes from Bill. And I think it's mostly stop. I think that was it. Okay, yeah, we can do a Zoom call or a FaceTime call in just a couple of seconds. I totally appreciate you hanging out, and if anybody else tuned in or is watching this in the future, Although I might just delete this one because if it's all stabby and stuff with the sound, I might just delete this from my YouTube channel. I appreciate you hanging out. I'm going to stop the live stream and see what happens now. I think that I got a lot out of this. I appreciate it. Thanks, man. We'll chat in a couple.